Comanche. Throughout history, the name has instilled fear and respect. Often regarded as the most effective and ruthless of all North American Indian tribes, their territory was the largest of all and covered most of Texas into Oklahoma, New Mexico, and northern Mexico. How did the son of a captive white woman and a Comanche become the first established, last, and only official chief of the entire Comanche Nation? How was Quanah Parker so successful, having never lost a major battle? What prompted Parker to bring the Comanches into the Christian religion and establish a church?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps scout sniper, history professor, historian, and book author. And we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
Quanah Parker was the son of Chief Peyton Nakona of the Kawahati Band and Cynthia Ann Parker, a white woman captured as a child by the Comanches. Quanah later, as an adult, adopted his mother's maiden name. Quanah's mother, Cynthia Ann Parker, was the daughter of white settlers who had built a compound called Fort Parker on the Navasota River in east central Texas. In May 1836, Comanche and Caddo warriors raided Fort Parker and captured 9-year-old Cynthia Ann and her little brother John. Tall and muscular, Quanah became a full warrior at age 15. A series of raids established his reputation as an aggressive and fearless fighter. He became a war chief at a relatively young age. Quanah Parker's paternal grandfather was Pobeshikwaso, better known as the fierce warrior chief and medicine man Iron Jacket, for wearing a Spanish coat of mail with the ability to stop arrows. Unfortunately, Iron Jacket, with at least 6 shooters under Captain Lawrence Sullivan Ross shooting at him, killed the semi-legendary war chief at the Peace River on May 12, 1858. Quanah's father, Peyton Nakona, was also highly revered as a war chief. He led raids on the Texas frontier from the 1830s until December 18, 1860, when, as the story goes, his luck supposedly ran out. In 1860, Texas Rangers attacked a Comanche encampment on the Peace River, an event still mired in controversy and is still contentious. All versions of the event agree that Cynthia Ann and her young daughter, Prairie Flower, were captured. American forces were led by Sergeant John Spangler, who commanded Company H of the U.S. 2nd Cavalry, and the Texas Rangers under Sol Ross would claim that at the end of the battle, he wounded Peyton Nakona, who was thereafter killed by Spangler's Mexican servant, but this was disputed by eyewitnesses among the Texas Rangers and by Quanah Parker. It is believed that Quanah Parker and his brother Pecos were the only two to have escaped on horseback and were tracked by Ranger Charles Goodnight, but escaped to rendezvous with other Nakoni. Some, including Quanah Parker himself, claimed the story is false, and that he, his brother, and his father Peyton Nakona were not at the battle at all, that they were at the larger camp miles away, and that Peyton Nakona died years later of illness caused by wounds from battles with Apaches. What is unclear is how many participants were involved on both sides. Whether Nakona was killed, if Quanah and Nakona were even present at all, are still in dispute. Regardless, it seems that Nakona was not even present, as he was not identified. His death is still a mystery. During the battle, the Texans recaptured Cynthia Parker and her infant daughter, Prairie Flower. Cynthia Ann, who was fully assimilated to Comanche culture, did not wish to go, but she was compelled to return to her former family. She became something of a public curiosity and was placed on public display. As one account described, she stood on a large wooden box and was bound with rope. She made a pathetic figure as she stood there, viewing the crowds that swarmed about her. The tears were streaming down her face, and she was muttering in the Indian language. Her case became famous, and the Texas legislature, upon hearing of her story, authorized a $100 annual grant payment for 5 years. However, she withdrew from white society and fell into a deep depression, which grew worse after the death of Prairie Flower in 1864 from scarlet fever. Cynthia Ann Parker died in 1871 from self-induced starvation and influenza. Quanah Parker moved between several Comanche bands before joining the fierce Kawahati, particularly bitter enemies of the hunters who had appropriated their best land on the Texas frontier and who were destroying the buffalo herds. In order to stem the onslaught of Comanche attacks on settlers and travelers, the U.S. government assigned the Indians to reservations in 1867. Quanah and his band, however, refused to cooperate and continued their raids. Attempts by the U.S. military to locate them were unsuccessful. Quanah Parker walked in two worlds, that of the whites and that of the Comanche. In June 1874, Quanah and Isa Tai, a medicine man who claimed to have a potion that would protect the Indians from bullets, gathered over 250 warriors from among the Comanche, Cheyenne, and Kiowa and attacked about 30 white buffalo hunters quartered at Adobe Walls, Texas. Although the raid was a failure for the Native Americans due to a saloon owner allegedly being warned of the attack, the U.S. military retaliated in force in what became known as the Red River Indian War. The attack was repulsed and Quanah himself was wounded in this incident, which may have been the catalyst to start the Red River War. Quanah Parker emerged as a dominant figure in this war, clashing repeatedly with Colonel Ranald S. Bad Hand McKenzie's 4th U.S. Cavalry Regiment and Pompey Factor's Buffalo Soldiers. This event was what brought Pompey Factor into the story, who became known to Parker. According to legend, the Comanche leader gave him the name Stalking Shadow due to his ability to track them day or night. The Red River Indian War of 1874-75 was an uprising of warriors from several Indian tribes thought to be peacefully settled on Oklahoma and Texas reservations, ending in the crushing of the Indian descents by the United States. Presumably, the Treaty of Medicine Lodge, Kansas, October 1867, had placed these tribes on reservations. A number of southwestern tribes, such as the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Comanche, Kiowa, and Catawba. Many braves, unwilling to accept this fate of confinement, broke out repeatedly to raid white travelers and settlers. Encouraged by Chiefs Big Tree and Satanta, the Indians carried out an attack in 1864 that killed 60 Texans and launched this war for sure. In the fall of 1874, about 3,000 Federal infantry and cavalry, under the overall command of General William Tecumseh Sherman, converged on the Indians concentrated in the Red River Valley, Texas. Resistance was so determined that 14 pitched battles were required to curb the Indian power by mid-November. Following a year of battles in which his men were never truly defeated, but which finished Comanche power, Quanah Parker concluded that fighting against the whites was a losing proposition. Quanah Parker's surrender at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to American authorities in 1875 was a turning point, not just for the Comanches, but for him personally. He and his band of 100 Coatis settled down to reservation life, and Quanah promised to adopt white ways. When he surrendered, government agents from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, probably recognizing Quanah's innate intelligence and leadership abilities, designated him as the chief of the Comanche Nation. Quanah Parker was different from other Native American leaders in that he had grown wealthy after his submission. Under Quanah, the Comanches became relatively successful at ranching and profited by leasing their land to cattle barons as grazing space. The whites saw Quanah as a valuable leader who would be willing to help assimilate Comanches to white society. More conservative Comanche critics viewed him as a sellout. He took that money and invested it in real estate and railroad stock. He was successful enough that he was deemed to be the wealthiest Native American in the United States by the turn of the 20th century. Quanah decided to abandon a traditional Comanche teepee and had a 2-story, 10-room house built for himself in the foothills of the Wichita Mountains in Oklahoma. Quanah had 7 or 8 wives, if you include his first wife, who was an Apache and who could not adapt to Comanche ways. Quanah was also a devotee of Comanche spiritual beliefs. He initially rejected traditional Christianity, even though one of his sons, White Parker, was a Methodist minister. Though he encouraged Christianization of Comanche people, he also advocated the syncretic Native American church alternative and fought for the legal use of peyote in the movement's religious practices. He was even elected deputy sheriff of Lawton, Oklahoma in 1902. Parker stated that the white man goes into his church house and talks about Jesus, but the Indian goes into his teepee and talks to Jesus. One of his most powerful connections and friendships was President Theodore Roosevelt, who first met Quanah when he visited Indian Territory for a reunion of his regiment of Rough Riders from the Spanish-American War. This relationship extended into Roosevelt's presidency when the two hunted wolves together in 1905. Like other whites, Roosevelt viewed Quanah as a model of assimilation, but also listened to Quanah on Comanche issues regarding equality, education, employment, and prosperity. Roosevelt said, "Give the red man the same chance as the white. The country is founded on the doctrine of giving each man a fair show to see what is in him. Roosevelt, perhaps the greatest of American conservationists, also visited Quanah's Star House many times, and Roosevelt delivered 15 bison from the Bronx Zoo to the newly created Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. Quanah was greatly excited for the return of the nearly extinct animal that was emblematic of the Comanche way of life. They both remained friends until Quanah's death on February 23, 1911, of pneumonia at Star House. Quanah Parker was originally buried by his mother at the Post Oak Mission in Oklahoma. With the dead chief were buried some valuables as a mark of his status. In May 1915, one or more grave robbers opened the grave and stole 3 rings, a gold watch chain, and a diamond brooch. The criminals were never found. Instead, Quanah's family claimed the bones and reburied him in a new casket. This was not the end of Quanah Parker. In 1957, Fort Sill was expanding its missile firing ranges, which encompassed the Post Oak Mission. As a result, both Quanah and Cynthia Ann Parker were disinterred, with the bodies moved to Chief's Knoll at Fort Sill. Many cities and highway systems in southwest Oklahoma and north Texas, once southern Comanche area, bear reference to his name. The monument which guards his grave reads, "Resting here until day breaks, and shadows fall, and darkness disappears, is Quanah Parker, last chief of the Comanches."
We hope you enjoyed this segment of Forgotten History. Please click like and subscribe for free. And please stay tuned and be engaged and informed. Send us comments if you have questions or even show ideas, and we will respond to all requests and comments as soon as we can. Thank you.